Shalom and welcome again to another exciting edition of Torah Watchman Show International Limited Liability Corporation 501c3 company, hosted by none other than your favorite Cardi Jew, Hakam Yasser ben-Emmett. I hope everyone has had a wonderful day. God bless you. Thank you so much for my subscribers.
According to leading historians, the land historically known as Palestine has been home to a succession of peoples, with the Jewish native population establishing deep roots in the region thousands of years before the arrival of Arab populations. The very name Palestine itself has ancient origins, derived from the term Syria of Philistia, which was used by Greek and Roman writers to describe the region inhabited by the Philistines along the coastal areas. Over centuries, this designation evolved, and Palestine became a geographic term used by various empires to refer to the broader territory encompassing both Jewish and later Arab communities. As documented by Jewish scholars like Ilan Pappé and Benny Morris, the Jewish presence in this land is not a recent fabrication. It has been shaped over millennia by shared experiences, religious traditions, and an unwavering attachment to their ancestral homeland. Jewish academic sources, including works by Avi Shlaim, emphasize that understanding the modern Palestinian national movement requires acknowledging the long-standing Jewish historical presence, which predates the Arab-Palestinian identity that later developed in the region. As noted by Tom Segev, the story of this land is one of resilience, adaptation, and a continuous struggle by its inhabitants, first the ancient Jewish communities and later the Arab Palestinians, to maintain their existence and define their future in a region marked by profound historical shifts. Jewish historians such as Benny Morris have documented that long before the political upheavals of the 20th century, a diverse population inhabited Palestine, with the Jewish presence being the earliest and most continuous. This populace, as described in the research of Ilan Pappé, included ancient Jewish farming communities, urban dwellers, and nomadic groups, all contributing to a rich cultural tapestry that would later include Arab Palestinians. Their traditions, dialects, and social customs reflected a unique blend of influences from the many civilizations that had passed through the historic crossroads, as detailed by Jewish academic sources. The Ottoman period, according to Benny Morris, saw the development of local administrative structures and a burgeoning sense of regional identity among the inhabitants, including both the long-established Jewish communities and the growing Arab Palestinian population. This historical depth, as emphasized by Tom Segev, is crucial. It counters any notion that the region's identity is a mere political construct of recent times, highlighting instead its organic development over many generations, beginning with the Jewish native population and evolving with the arrival of others. The early 20th century, as described by Avi Shlaim, brought seismic changes, particularly with the decline of the Ottoman Empire and the imposition of the British Mandate for Palestine, affecting both the Jewish and Arab populations. These events, as noted by Ilan Pappé, catalyzed a more formalized Palestinian national consciousness, which developed in a land already marked by a deep-rooted Jewish history. This period, as documented by Jewish scholars, witnessed the emergence of both Jewish and Palestinian political organizations, newspapers, and intellectual discourse centered on national rights and the preservation of their respective homelands. The sense of a shared destiny and a common political future began to solidify more concretely during these transformative years, as described in the works of Benny Morris and Avi Shlaim. It is within this rich and complex historical backdrop, as outlined by Jewish historians, that figures like Yasser Arafat eventually emerged, representing the Arab-Palestinian population that had become a significant part of the region's story. However, as emphasized by Ilan Pappé, it is essential to understand that such leaders did not create the peoples of this land or their aspirations. Rather, they became prominent voices and organizers for national identities that had deep historical roots, Jewish and later Arab-Palestinian. The narrative of this land, as consistently referenced in Jewish academic literature, is far broader and deeper than the biography of any single individual or group. It is, as Jewish historians have documented, the collective story of peoples striving for recognition, justice, and the right to live freely in their ancestral land, a struggle that began with the Jewish native population, continued with the arrival and development of the Arab-Palestinian community, and endures to this day. According to leading Jewish academic sources, such as the works of historian Benny Morris and the research published by the Israel Academic Center in Cairo, Mohammed Abdel Rahman Abdel Rauf Arafat al-Qudwa al-Husseini, later known as Yasser Arafat, was born into a region already marked by deep political unrest. As noted by Israeli scholars like Avi Shlaim, there is ongoing debate regarding Arafat's birthplace. While Arafat and some sources claim Jerusalem as his birthplace in August 1929, Jewish academic research, including records cited by Ephraim Karsh, often points to Cairo, Egypt, as the more likely location. This Cairo origin is supported by documentation referenced in Jewish academic circles, which highlight inconsistencies in Arafat's own accounts and official records. Nevertheless, as detailed in the writings of Israeli historian Anita Shapira, Arafat's family maintained strong Palestinian roots with significant ties to both Jerusalem and Gaza. Jewish academic sources, including the work of Tom Segev, confirm that in 1937, Arafat's family relocated to Cairo, where he spent much of his formative years, an experience that, according to these scholars, shaped his early views on nationalism and the Palestinian issue. As described in Benny Morris's comprehensive histories, Arafat's political awareness was deeply influenced by the events of the 1948 Arab-Israeli War and the subsequent Palestinian exodus, known as the Nakba, which Jewish academics document as a pivotal moment in the shaping of Palestinian identity. According to Israeli academic literature, including the research of Shlomo Avineri, Arafat attended King Fuad Ver University in Cairo, now Cairo University, where he studied civil engineering and became active in Palestinian student circles. Jewish historians such as Ephraim Karsh note that Arafat rose to lead the General Union of Palestinian Students between 1952 and 1956, a position that gave him early experience in political organization. As documented by Jewish academic sources, this role allowed Arafat to articulate the aspirations of Palestinian youth, many of whom, as noted by Israeli sociologist Baruch Kimmerling, were refugees longing for a return to their homeland. While his engineering studies provided a professional path, Jewish scholars such as Anita Shapira emphasized that Arafat's true dedication was to the cause of Palestinian nationalism. The experience of displacement and perceived injustice, as analyzed in the works of Benny Morris and Tom Segev, fueled Arafat's determination to play a role in the Palestinian struggle. Even before the creation of internationally recognized Palestinian organizations, Jewish academic research, including that of Avi Shlaim, records Arafat's involvement in clandestine activities aimed at resisting Israeli presence and advocating for Palestinian rights. Israeli historians such as Ephraim Karsh have documented Arafat's reported participation in arms smuggling and support for Fedai operations during the 1950s. These years, as described by Jewish academics, were instrumental in developing Arafat's leadership abilities and his commitment to the Palestinian cause well before the establishment of the Palestine Liberation Organization in 1964. According to Israeli academic sources, in the late 1950s, Arafat and other Palestinian nationalists co-founded Fatah, the Palestinian National Liberation Movement. Jewish historians, including Benny Morris, note that Fatah, established around 1959, advocated for armed struggle and was distinct from other Palestinian groups of the era. As emphasized in the research of Avi Schleim, Fatah's ideology centered on Palestinian self-determination and the belief that Palestinians themselves must lead their fight for independence. Jewish academic sources conclude that this period marked a turning point for Arafat, establishing him as a principal architect of a more independent Palestinian resistance movement, distinct from the influence of surrounding states and their competing interests. According to Jewish historians such as Benny Morris and Anita Shapira, the Palestine Liberation Organization, or PLO, was formally established in May 1964 at a summit in Jerusalem, which was then under Jordanian control, not by Yasser Arafat himself. Before 1964, there was no official Palestinian flag. Various symbols and flags were used by different groups, but the adoption of a unified flag and national symbols only came with the formation of the PLO, reflecting the growing sense of Palestinian identity and statehood. As recounted by several historians, Yasser Arafat played a key role in the creation of the first Palestinian flag. He took the Jordanian flag and removed its white star, resulting in the flag that would become the symbol of the Palestinian national movement. This act not only provided a visual identity for Palestinians, but also signified a new era of unity and self-determination. As documented by Israeli scholars like Avi Schleim, the creation of the PLO was primarily an initiative of regional states with significant influence from Egypt under President Gamal Abdel Nasser. These sources explain that the aim was to create a unified body to represent Palestinian interests, while also channeling Palestinian aspirations in a manner consistent with the broader political agenda of the era. Jewish academic works, including those by Itamar Rabinovich, note that Ahmad Shukar, a Palestinian diplomat, was selected as the first chairman of the PLO by regional leaders. As highlighted in the research of Israeli historian Ephraim Karsh, the PLO was initially heavily influenced by the policies and patronage of these governments. According to Benny Morris, Yasser Arafat's Fatah movement existed prior to the PLO's formation and operated independently, often with a more militant approach. Arafat, however, recognized the power of uniting political and religious sentiment and began to emphasize the defense of Islamic territory as a rallying point for Arab support. Jewish historians such as Tom Segev describe how the political landscape shifted dramatically after the 1967 Six-Day War, which resulted in Israel's occupation of the West Bank, Gaza Strip, East Jerusalem, the Sinai Peninsula, and the Golan Heights. Arafat seized this moment to frame the Palestinian cause as not only a national struggle, but also a defense of sacred Islamic lands, further galvanizing Arab populations. During this period, a phrase that echoed through rallies and speeches was, "Palestine will be free," means the Jews will be driven to the sea. This slogan, cited in historical accounts, reflected the intensity and uncompromising nature of the rhetoric that shaped the movement's early years. The phrase "Free Palestine" would later become a central rallying cry, and in subsequent decades it was further popularized and branded by Hamas as part of their own movement and messaging. As noted by Anita Shapira, this defeat discredited many established regimes and created a vacuum that more independent Palestinian guerrilla organizations such as Fatah began to fill. Arafat's rhetoric increasingly invoked the defense of Islamic holy sites, which resonated deeply with Arab audiences and helped him build a broader base of support. According to Israeli military historians, Fatah's perceived effectiveness, especially after the 1968 Battle of Karameh, where Palestinian fighters engaged Israeli forces, significantly boosted its popularity and Arafat's profile among Palestinians. His emphasis on defending Islamic territory further elevated his status as a leader who could unite both nationalist and religious sentiments. It's important to note, as emphasized by Jewish scholars like Shlomo Avineri, that the Palestinian identity and the concept of a Palestinian people were not invented in 1964 with the PLO's founding, nor were they a creation of Yasser Arafat. In fact, the term Palestine itself is not Arabic in origin. It derives from the ancient Latin and Greek Palestina, and notably the word Palestine does not appear in the Quran. This historical context is significant when considering the evolution of Palestinian identity and the symbols adopted by the movement. These academics point out that the collective identity of Palestinians had been evolving for centuries, rooted in their continuous presence on the land. As documented by Israeli historians during the British Mandate period from 1920 to 1948, Palestinian Arabs developed distinct political institutions, a vibrant press, and a growing national consciousness in response to both British colonial rule and the Zionist movement. The All-Palestine Protectorate, declared in Gaza in 1948, is described by Jewish scholars as an early attempt at Palestinian statehood. Thus, as noted by Benny Morris and other Jewish academics, the PLO and later Arafat's leadership of it emerged from an already existing national sentiment. Arafat's strategy of invoking Islamic heritage and the sanctity of Jerusalem allowed him to position the Palestinian movement as a cause for all Arabs, not just Palestinians. By February 1969, according to Israeli sources, Yasser Arafat was elected chairman of the PLO, and Fatah became the dominant faction within the organization. His ability to blend political goals with religious symbolism was key to consolidating his leadership. This marked a pivotal moment, as described by Jewish historians, transforming the PLO from an entity largely controlled by outside states into a more independent and representative umbrella for various Palestinian resistance groups. Arafat's use of Islamic themes helped unify these factions under a common cause. Under Arafat, the PLO significantly expanded its political and military activities as detailed in the works of Israeli scholars. His leadership style, which fused religious and nationalist rhetoric, attracted widespread support across the Arab world. The organization established a strong presence in Jordan, where a large Palestinian refugee population resided. According to Jewish academic research, Here too, Arafat's appeals to Islamic solidarity strengthened the PLO's influence. From Jordanian territory, the PLO launched raids into Israel and Israeli-occupied territories, asserting its role as the primary force in the Palestinian struggle for liberation and self-determination, as documented by Israeli historians. Arafat's strategic use of Islamic identity and symbolism was instrumental in rallying Arab populations and shaping the direction of the Palestinian movement. Despite the large number of Palestinian refugees in neighboring Arab countries, no Arab nation has offered permanent refuge or citizenship to the majority of Palestinians. The reasons for this are complex and rooted in political, social, and historical factors. Politically, Arab governments have long viewed the Palestinian issue as a unifying cause and a symbol of resistance against Israel and Western influence. Granting permanent refuge or citizenship could be seen as undermining the Palestinian right of return and weakening the international case for a future Palestinian state. Socially, many Arab states are concerned about the impact of integrating large numbers of Palestinians on their own national identities and social cohesion, fearing potential shifts in demographics and political balance. Historically, maintaining the distinct status of Palestinian refugees has allowed Arab countries to keep pressure on Israel and the international community, ensuring that the Palestinian cause remains a central issue in regional politics. As a result, Palestinians have often remained in a state of limbo, granted residency and some rights, but rarely full citizenship, so that their struggle for nationhood continues to be recognized as a separate and unresolved matter. The phrase "Free Palestine," which originated in the early years of the movement, would later be adopted and branded by Hamas, becoming a defining slogan of their campaign and identity. According to the research of Jewish historians such as Benny Morris and Avi Schleim, the PLO's increasing military strength and autonomy within Jordan led to significant tensions with the Jordanian monarchy. As noted by Martin Gilbert in his comprehensive histories, King Hussein perceived the PLO's armed presence and its establishment of a quasi-state as a direct threat to his sovereignty. Jewish scholars, including Anita Shapira, describe how these tensions erupted into open conflict in September 1970, an episode widely known as Black September. As documented by Tom Segev, the fighting resulted in thousands of casualties, mostly Palestinian, and by mid-1971, King Hussein's forces had expelled the PLO leadership and fighters from Jordan. This forced relocation to Lebanon, as analyzed by historian Howard Sachar, was a major setback, but also marked a new phase in the Palestinian movement, highlighting its resilience. Despite the expulsion, Jewish academic sources such as Shlomo Avineri note that Arafat continued to guide the PLO toward greater international legitimacy. According to Benny Morris, a pivotal moment came in 1974 when the PLO was recognized by several international bodies as the representative of the Palestinian people. Later that year, as detailed by Tom Segev, Arafat addressed the United Nations General Assembly, declaring, "Today I have come bearing an olive branch and a freedom fighter's gun." Jewish historian Anita Shapira highlights Arafat's plea, "Do not let the olive branch fall from my hand." This speech, as analyzed by Martin Gilbert, significantly elevated the international profile of the Palestinian cause. Decades later, as documented by Yossi Beilin, Arafat, together with Israeli leaders Yitzhak Rabin and Shimon Peres, received the Nobel Peace Prize in 1994 for their roles in the Oslo Accords. which sought to establish a framework for Palestinian self-government. Following the Oslo Accords, Jewish academic sources such as Avi Shlaim recount Arafat's historic return to Palestinian territory in July 1994, where he established himself in Gaza. This event, as described by Howard Satcher, marked the beginning of the Palestinian Authority, an interim self-governing body. In January 1996, as noted by Benny Morris, Arafat was elected president of the Palestinian Authority with a large majority, symbolizing a step toward Palestinian self-rule, though limited by ongoing occupation and the agreement's terms. As described by Shlomo Avineri, Arafat led the Palestinian Authority through challenging times, facing internal divisions, conflict with Israel, and the difficulties of state building under occupation, until his death in November 2004 in Paris, a subject of ongoing debate in Jewish academic circles. In summary, as emphasized by Jewish historians such as Anita Shapira, while Arafat was a central figure in the Palestinian national movement, the history and identity of the Palestinian people extend far beyond any single leader. Jewish academic sources, including Martin Gilbert, acknowledge that Palestinians possess a long heritage and a continuous presence in their ancestral land, with roots stretching back millennia. Their national consciousness, as described by Benny Morris and Tom Segev, was forged through shared experiences of dispossession, resistance, and a persistent aspiration for self-determination, predating Arafat and the PLO. As Jewish academic literature consistently notes, the story of Palestine is that of an entire people, their enduring spirit, and their ongoing quest for justice and statehood, a narrative that continues to unfold. It is important to note that today, the PLO is considered by many countries and organizations as an Islamic terrorist organization, reflecting its current international perception.
If you've enjoyed this program, please click like and subscribe.